Great. Welcome back to Startup Talk. I'm here with Lisen Kaci, founder and CEO of Discrepancy AI. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Yeah, thank you for having me.
It's great to have you. It's always good to talk to founders and diving deep into what they're doing and what brought them to where they are now. So let's start with what is Discrepancy AI and what does it do?
Discrepancy AI is a document analysis and review platform. Pretty much, we want to go from any unstructured file to any structured format that our customers need. So whether you are doing income verification and you need unstructured documents to be converted into income data, or whether you're an insurance company looking to convert hundreds of documents that you have into finalized finished reports. So Discrepancy AI, we use no code platform and workflows to convert any file that you have into any other data source that you need.
That sounds incredibly useful, and I'm sure it's very useful in the enterprise. Uh, what was the moment that inspired you to start Discrepancy AI? Was there a specific pain point that you said, hey, there's got to be an easier way than this?
Absolutely, yeah. So my background is as an AI engineer, and I was working in document reviews for many, many years. And really, what motivated me is the existing technology, OCR, sucks. It's so bad, and it's so old and antiquated. And we have these new cutting edge AI models that are omni-channel, but 99% of companies, even the ones using AI, are first running their documents through OCR in order to extract some text data and then analyzing that text data. And you're really playing broken telephone with the weakest model possible, these OCR models invented in created in like 1970. So we really wanted to turn that on its head. And I realized the capabilities of the latest Gen AI models, and especially with these Omni capabilities where they can process more than just text. I knew that a new system of going directly from file to finished data was the way to go. And that's why we've built a series of tools and applications to allow our customers to convert the data they have into structured formatted data, whether that's JSON, CSV, or a finished report.
It was Steve Jobs who said you could only connect the dots looking backwards. Your past roles at WiseDocs, Boat Logistics, and even at BrainStation used to be a partner of ours. How did those experiences shape what you're building today?
Yeah, well, at GoBolt, really, that was really formative for my software development career. There, I learned kind of like the best practices in system design, security, code standards, and I was able to like really polish that side of my career. And at BrainStation, it was really great to kind of like give back a little bit and train some up and coming software developers. And it was really great to see like me like the same, because I'm a self-taught developer myself. So seeing like kind of like passing that along felt really great. So that's just like a really great motivational thing. And yeah, and at WiseDocs is really where I was introduced to the world of document processing, and really where where I figured out that these capabilities need to be enhanced.
You've built side projects like OpenClear, and now you run a full AI platform. How has building in public and iterating fast helped your approach?
Yeah, I honestly I feel like it's the way to go. Open Clear is just like a fun side project that I kind of vibe coded, coded with the AI assistants. I mean, like everything I do is coding with AI assistants nowadays. It's just like you're cutting yourself short if you don't. But yeah, I just realized that like Canada spending data is openly available, but it's like really difficult to read and get understand. So I just like build a really fast tool in just over the weekend, like honestly, like 2 to 4 hours of coding time. Just build like a quick tool to be able to visualize that data, and then shared it, and I'm getting a lot of feedback on it, and seeing what people have to say, and it just overall increases what I'm doing with Discrepancy AI as well, because I like my voice becomes like an expert voice in building with AI. So in that case, building having side projects is beneficial for that respect. And building in public is honestly the best way to go for mine. I've had many people talk about, but like they're like, oh, but someone's gonna steal your idea. And me, as somebody who's like constantly like thinking about projects, startups, and building businesses, like I have my own ideas, and I'm gonna build those first before I build your ideas. And one thing that I learned from really doing it is that nobody cares. Nobody cares. You think you have such a great idea, and you launch it, and you're like, I have to make sure it's perfect, and you do all this preparation, and then you launch and it's crickets, and then you realize, oh wow, distribution is also so important. And this mentality of build it and it will come is just completely not correct. Maybe in like 2002, when the internet was like super early, you that type of stuff worked. But right now, distribution, getting in front of people, that's super important. They're not gonna generally come just because you build it. Even if you have product led growth, even if you have the best product ever, the best product doesn't always win, and you just got to make sure that you understand that, and keep that in mind. Building in public helps because you iterate. You're not lost in your head, spending months on an idea that you think is great in your head, and then when you launch it, you realize, oh man, there was like so many flaws with this that you will find immediately if you get it out into the public.
That's great advice. I always say if you build it, they won't come for exactly the reason you say, and founders don't understand that. And I've also had that conversation all the time with people who say they don't want to tell you their idea, or, they're building in stealth. And I remember at an event, I spoke at a 400-person event, and someone came up to me and talked to me. And I said, okay, stand right here beside me. And I spoke to like 50 people, came up and talked to me. And then I turned to them afterwards because I said, I bet you many people have the same idea. It doesn't matter. I don't know any business that doesn't have competition. Stop thinking about it. Now, when I turned back to him, he said, 4 people talked to you, had my idea. I don't like this is like, you just got to get off that. So, what would you say to somebody who says they're building in stealth? And what advice would you give them?
I would say that there's a limited few industries where that kind of makes sense. If you're building like finance, where you figured out some sort of like financial tricks that you can do, and with a lot of those, it kind of makes sense that the second, like let's say you have an investment strategy, the second that investment strategy is public, you can't use it anymore. It makes sense in very rare situation like that. But most time, the advice I would give is that you will learn so much more from launching early and seeing the customer behaviors and reiterating on that. Think about where you want to be in 6 months. In 6 months, do you want to be working on an idea that's wrong, or do you want to figure out that it's wrong 2 months back and be working on something that's more what your customers want? I say a lot of founders build stuff that they personally think is cool, and I've made this mistake myself too. Like everyone has, you just build stuff that you think is cool, and then you're like, well, everyone's gonna love this. It's so cool. But no, they don't, because they have their own lives, their own problems. They're dealing with their own jobs, and yeah, that's something that you got to realize, that you like someone is top of your priority, you're bottom of someone else's priority. So you got to always keep that in mind, and make sure like you got to build you got to solve problems that are really really challenging for them, not just nice to haves.
Yeah, and on that note, not only if you build it, they won't come unless for whatever reason you're in a super niche, like you were saying, or you're already working with an enterprise client to build this thing and you've already got contracts in place. Um, you need to build your community while you're doing this. Otherwise, if you're building in stealth and you say all of a sudden, boom, I launch again, crickets. So there's no reason why you can't be loud in the area you're working in, even if
Exactly.
you're not telling secrets about what you're
Exactly.
doing as a company. So build your following, build your brand, build the knowledge in this area so that you have somewhat of a community to give you feedback when you start. revealing any information to them.
Yeah, another kind of thing to think about when you're building your product, and like a lot of companies like don't want to reveal their product features. You need to be constantly building product features. It's never over. So that's your competitive advantage. So people that don't want to reveal their product features because they'll be copied are thinking about it all wrong, because it's going to take them like 6 months to copy your product features, and in that 6 months you have to be to the next stage. So that's the key: rapidly talking to customers and iterating your product, sharing that with the world, gathering more feedback, and just spinning the flywheel faster and faster and faster. And that's, in my opinion, the best way to go. Uh, and you like the reality of it is that someone will copy a product idea if they think that it's good. But if you're truly competing at a high level, by the time that they roll out that feature to compete with you, you're on the next feature and the next one. So you're like that rapid pace of innovation is what keeps you competitive. If people are going to inevitably copy some of the ideas, it will happen.
Discrepancy AI does deep document analysis, including fraud detection, no code pipelines. What's the biggest technical or product challenge you've had to face so far?
Okay, so I'll tell you right now, one of the things is false positives. That's what really keeps me up at night, especially with fraud. So we've developed like entire systems around just trying to prevent that, and at the end, it's made the entire our entire AI architecture work a lot better. So we're doing things like AI tool chaining, where we use multiple AI models and we chain their responses together in an attempt to catch these false positives, errors, issues, inconsistencies within the AI responses themselves. So we've like developed a lot of like proprietary ways that we work with these AI models in a way to kind of like prevent these false positive issues, which it's when an AI finds a document to be fraudulent when it's not fraudulent. So that to me is like the biggest, the most worrying failure point. That yeah, we can say okay, a document is fraud and it passes through. That's also bad, but it's not as bad, in my opinion, as saying that someone's like rent application is fraudulent when it isn't. So that is what keeps me up the most at night, and that's what we've developed the most technology towards improving AI's performance by doing by kind of developing these methodologies about how we deal with multi AI systems. And I actually got the idea from reading Isaac Asimov's I, Robot. And in it, it's crazy. This like 1950s. This was written in, and it's predicting the world today. And in it, one of these robots is like the hand and fingers, where you have a main AI robot and it controls like uh, uh, um, other models, smaller models, to perform kind of like orchestrated tasks. And I'm kind of like I use that as like motivation, as inspiration to build our own internal AI systems that work actually the exact same way, where you have one main AI models that dictates tasks and checks the work of these other models, and they all check each other's work, and that kind of eliminates hallucinations, false positive errors, issues, and all these other problems that arise from AI models.
You joined Techstars in 2024. How did that experience change your vision or execution?
Yeah, so that with Techstars, it was really, really great, helping me really understand, as you said, the execution, how to best target the market, how to work with investors, how to work with customers, and how to like have a strategy at building the top of funnel. So there was a lot of business building methodology that was really, really helpful at Techstars, and as well as the connections and that they had throughout people in the industry. So it was super valuable for us at Discrepancy, and it was really like the spark really that led to the acceleration of our growth.
You partnered with Single Key, Lisi AI, and others, what impact have those partnerships had on Discrepancy AI's growth or credibility?
Yeah, so that they've been huge with that. So that's really how we started, and it's how I recommend anybody starts, is that they find a customer first. So I approached Single Key with this solution for rental screening, and I worked with them closely to build out the product that they needed that actually solved their problems there. And that's where then I productized that and then sold it to other companies that had that same problem. And that really prevented that initial issue of like building something that I thought was great but not really that the customer. Working directly with the customers to build something, and then once you have one, you really have that social proof, and that is the most important thing for getting more customers and getting more clients. Get that social proof, get those case studies, and then go to similar industries, have the numbers, and be like, hey, here's how this is how much we're saving from them. Here's how much we could save for you. Here's the case study. Here's the social proof. And like, yeah, most of our customers have been through referrals. So yeah, like do right by your customers and have social proof of your success.
Building in Toronto's tech ecosystem. It's both valuable and a challenge. How has it been for you?
Yeah, so it's in terms of like the support has been really great, very valuable, a lot of great connections, a lot of great companies. For us, we've kind of put investing kind of like on the investors on the back burner. We're at like 200K ARR already, and but the negative from Toronto is that if you are trying to raise, it's quite a lot more challenging here than it is in the US, in Palo Alto or New York. So that can be a lot of challenging. Investors in Canada and overall can be a little more risk adverse. And it's actually really interesting. Like I'll have like two decks for US and Canadian investors, where with US investors, I'd be like, we can grow to be like $100 billion company, and like we can be like the greatest unicorn you've ever seen. And then for Canadian investors, if you were to go with that, they would be like, nah, right? So like you have to like literally lower your ambitions for them, and it's to the point where you don't even want to say that you'll be $1 billion company, because they'll be like, so it's really really interesting. With Canadian ones, you want to be like, oh, I'm gonna eat up this whole vertical. I'm only gonna focus on this one type of business, and that's all I'm gonna do and become really good at it. And then for US, they really want to see that you can kind of like get to that multi-billion-dollar company, and they're willing to take a lot more risks. So right now, like we're just about to start our fundraising, so that's something for me to keep in mind. But in the past, like our main focus has been just growing that revenue, and in Toronto has been great for that.
If you could go back and give yourself one piece of advice at the very start of your founder journey, what would it be?
Yeah, I heard this quote, and I usually don't like speaking in quotes, but this one's so like build painkillers, not multivitamins. So that's something that I kind of discovered at the very early days of Discrepancy AI, where I was trying to build software that was like nice to haves. You need like right off the bat, we started like working with like law firms, trying to like build analysis for them, and it wasn't working out, and there was a lot of issues. Mainly, the one thing that I learned is that lawyers work like their most important thing to them really is billable hours. And for most law firms, right, there's some specific niche cases that's not true, but for most law firms, AI will decrease billable hours no matter what. You could say it's the best thing in the world, but it will decrease billable hours. There's no way around that, right? So a lot of lawyers are kind of reluctant for that exact reason. So yeah, like that was I was trying to build products that were nice to have, and then with once we started the financial document analysis, that's when it really became a must for these companies, because like if you're like a company providing a loan or renting an apartment, like there's a timeline that you have to review these documents by X time. There's no like you don't get paid, you don't make money otherwise. It's not. So the incentives were more aligned. So yeah, align your incentives with your customers. So both of you success for both of you is the same. And build painkillers, not multivitamins.
Yeah, and when you're talking about a billable hours like accountants, lawyers, they're very like you say, risk averse when it comes to wait a minute, why do I want to do less work? And so large corporations that are embracing I used to work for Deloitte and Touche and Mercer Human Resource Consulting and other big companies, and you can see that they would be embracing this and saying, all right, it's true. But what we now do is have to change to a more value based pricing and say, like, for example, I'm just making this up so no one quote me on this. Deloitte decides to say that last year, our engagement with you took 10 people at, I don't know, 200 hours each and it cost this much. We're going to use AI in our tools this year, but we're going to productize it's going to cost you half as much. But they've actually only got one guy working on it or person. So I think they're going to have to switch that model because they're going to get less from the client, but it's going to be way less effort. And therefore, that person or those 10 people can do now 10 times the more work or 10 times the clients. And that's going to have to change. It's a little like what the government does with gas tax. Like, I always sit back and say, great, you want us to all go electrical cars, but what are you going to replace that tax money with? If you go to the tank, there's 70% of that is tax. And great, you can argue this or that or whatever. Bad, good. I'm not here for that. I'm saying that that is a big chunk of revenue for the government. And if you're telling people not to use that, what are you replacing that revenue with so that you can continue to move, right?
Yeah. Electricity prices, I would guess. Yeah. Like homeowners then would be subsidizing car drivers, I guess. Then.
But it's the same thing when you think about this. So don't
Yeah.
they're not going to bite the hand that feeds them. So you have to
Exactly.
come around. And just another insider story on that. I was at
Mhm.
Bell when Kojiko was eating their lunch with the 1999 home phone over the internet, if you remember way back when. Um, and we had a solution for them. I was working with CGI and them, and we came in and we demoed it, and it was great. And they just said, "Yeah, no thanks." And we're like, "What?" Like, we don't care. We don't care that Kojiko's eating our lunch on their 90 because we're getting $100 per month or whatever on the home phone line, and we're not gonna worry about that gravy train. They said if eventually eats itself, it eats itself, but we're not going to undercut it right now. So it's one of those things. Exactly. Like, okay, it was weird. It was a weird thing for me to experience, but they weren't willing to market a product that was cheaper because they were making too much money.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's yeah, it's the exact. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. Some technology changes, but people don't. So that's really funny.
So before we shift gears, is there anything I should ask you or have asked you about discrepancy AI or your story that we didn't cover?
No, I think I covered everything. Yeah. Talked a little bit about the technology journey, customers, growth. So yeah, I think that's everything.
All right. What's one non-obvious lesson you've learned about selling AI to legacy industries like insurance or finance?
So this might be obvious to some people who are like expert salespeople, but I'm an engineer that has to do sales to, run a startup. So you're going to be selling this to multiple roles within the company, and you need to sell differently to every person that you're selling to. There's going to be many people who need to say yes on your platform, whether that's your champion, like the initial person that you get to present you to the company, the decision maker who has the ultimate signing authority, the actual people that are going to use it every single day. So you have to understand the nuances there of all those relationships, how those relationships and company like culture, office politics of that company play into what you're doing, and make sure that you're selling to the individual how they need to be sold for that product. So whether I'm like my product, for example, will save the company like 80% on any data entry task, for example. But we have like a no code, low code solution that's super easy. Like a product person can set it up. You don't need a developer, but when I present that to a developer, they don't love it. They don't love the no code idea. So stuff like that is like, be careful about how you present your product, where one, even within the same company, where one person will think something is a feature, another person will not like that aspect of it. And you have to understand these. You have to build up an internal kind of compass about these interactions from within a company and navigate them correctly. And it's not easy, and it's something you're gonna have to be build up over many like sales calls and interactions. But yeah, that's something that to me was very interesting. How like, if you're a person working at a company, you don't necessarily have the best interests of the company in mind. You have your best interest, what makes your job easier, your job better. You have more opportunities at that company. So uh, thinking in terms of like the actual human beings in that position, instead of like, how can I help this company, that is something that was very selling to legacy medias. I had to legacy industries. I had to learn and understand.
Yeah, it's different working with enterprises, or what I would say employees, versus early stage startups. Where an early stage startup, it's a mindset we're all in, and employees, it's what's in it for me, and how will this negatively impact me. So there's definitely a shift there. When you're talking to, or initially reaching out to these legacy organizations, do you find it's more fear or more excitement about an AI tool or platform like yours?
Well, I haven't had fear per se, maybe a little FOMO. So there's, fear in that, but I don't, and I don't think this either. Like, AI is a new industrial revolution. It's gonna create more jobs than it takes. Like, it just is. Now, some types of jobs will go away, and there is gonna be a retraining period, as always there is with disruptive technologies.
Of course.
Um, but yeah, so sorry, what was the question again? Sorry.
Well, I was just saying, fear and or excitement, like what, and it
Yeah,
sounds
yeah.
like they're excited,
They're
and less
mostly
fear.
excited, yeah.
Yep,
Mainly the fear is the fear of missing out, not, and they don't want to, like, their competitor to do this, and they don't do it. I found actually very few people are actually afraid of what AI will do or take away their jobs. It's honestly mainly memes that talk about that stuff. The reality of like day to day people working, everyone sees that like with AI, the fear is only in not implementing it.
and you kind of touched on it, but I'm going to ask it any directly. Did you learn anything about life cycles selling into these legacy companies? Because a lot of startups or the don't understand the sales life cycle, that it takes 6 months or 18 months
Yeah.
to sell into an industry, and how, and they've got to obviously fund the startup throughout that. How did you find it?
Yeah, so that is exactly right. Luckily, we were able to raise a little bit of funding from Techstars, and that kind of like held us um, through these like 6 to 8 month long sales cycles, as you said. So like, yeah, it was tough in the beginning, especially since I didn't know if we were doing a lot of like free pay excuse me, free pilots at the beginning. And the free pilots is something that I would not recommend anymore, uh, because it's really, I call it AI tourism, where with AI being like everywhere in the news, everybody wants to see what the latest thing is. But they're not right for you, right? There's no, so I found you're wasting a lot of times on these free pilots, and you're not really getting anywhere. So instead of that, I built directly with customers, working directly with customers. So I built something that I knew that other companies like them wanted, because I built it with them in mind. So I just found then like competitors to those companies to sell to. So yeah, that's really like my advice on that. Like, it's gonna expect an 8 month sales cycle. So figure out like how you're going to sustain the companies through that first 8 months. And then yeah, be make sure you collect revenue. Do not always do free pilots. Collect revenue. You'll see a lot of companies do this like they it's like they hand out free pilots, and then they count that as revenue, and then you'll see all these companies be like fastest growing company in the world, right? That's how they're doing it. They're just counting free pilots as revenue. So this is great if you're kind of thinking, how do I raise a lot of money by misrepresenting it to myself to investors? And at the end of the day, it's, in my opinion, it's misrepresentation. So it just depends on kind of like the type of growth that you want, but we're looking at like revenue growth, so that it takes a little bit longer. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a point, especially if you're talking about something like you are talking about, where you have to do some customization for every client to get the results you need. And so when you're talking about pilots, it's potentially, and I'm, 20 or 100 or hundreds of hours of work to get it nailed in to do that pilot, rather than, oh yeah, here's a piece of software, go run it and consider that your pilot and let me know if you like it. Those are two different types of commitments. So there needs to be some potential financial commitment from the other side to make it happen, so that you know that you're not dealing with looky loos or just wasting your time.
Exactly. Yeah, totally.
So, how do you balance shipping fast with the need for precision in fields like yours where accuracy is non negotiable?
Yeah, no, for it's definitely something that we consider deeply, and so we like to the actual like our actual core of our technology, which is like the API and like AI API functionality. That we're very methodical and take a lot of time in like launching new features and in changing anything about that with a lot of testing. So we have to like kind of divide tasks into, okay, what are tasks that we can afford to make mistakes on? And those are things like, front end tools, new features, new ways to work with the AI models. So like this kind of calls into front end stuff. And then things like the actual meat and potatoes, which is the AI capabilities, those were a lot more cautious and careful with making pushes. And we have really, really like a lot of testing workflows that goes through before any of those changes are pushed to production. So yeah, you just got to break the tasks into things that you can afford, to move fast and break on, and things that you cannot. And yeah, it's case by case kind of nuance, but yeah, it's one of those, it depends type of answers.
A lot of founders I talked to recently definitely have a little bit of ADHD when you're in there building stuff. It's like, oh, I want to build this and I want to build that and I want to, build 100 features. But as you probably know by now, less is more. You want to be really good at the one or two things that really need to be done, not have 100 features. So, but at the same time, you got to meet client needs and grow and bring in new clients. So what's your method for deciding which features to build now versus later?
Yeah, so that the term is called feature creep, and it happens with every new product and every new, and believe it or not, the majority of feature creep happens pre-launch. So when before you're launched, you're just the founder, and you're like, oh, it needs this. Oh, but it also needs this. Oh, but it also needs this. Once you're launched and you're live and you have like 10, 20 customers, we're at like 26 right now. Once you have these customers, it actually is kind of obvious what features need to work on less, because they'll tell you. And this is the difference, as I said, between like a free pilot and paid customers. They will tell you very loudly what needs to be improved. And if like three or four of them are tell you what, like that's the exact same thing, then that's what you're going to prioritize on. So right at the beginning, launch as early as possible, get in front of customers, and then build new features based on stuff that they want. So there's a little nuance there. Um, you know, Henry Ford said if I asked people what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse. So there, people a lot of times don't know what the answer to their solution is, and that's okay. They ignore any solutions that they tell you. Like ignore the solutions, but listen to the problems that they have. So that's what I would say. So like yeah, they want a faster horse means they want to go faster. So that's really the problem. Now, how you solve that problem, That's where you're the expert. The customer is not the expert in solving that problem, pretty obviously, because if they were, they would not have that problem. So they know that they have it, but you're the expert in solving it, and that's yeah.
Yeah, and I had a long chat with a founder recently about the difference between the minimum viable product, which is focused more on investors and what this would look like, and what I call the minimum sellable product, which is focused at what clients would actually buy and pay for. So, do you have any thoughts or advice on how to get from 100 features to that minimum sellable product for a founder?
Yeah, I actually have another one. I call it a minimal demoable product. That's really where you want to start, and you want to have something that you can demo, do the sales, but it cannot stand on its own. Like there's no like database authentication, all of this like tech stuff that requires to have a fully functioning product. But you can demo it, and by doing that, as we talked earlier, sales cycles are 6 to 8 months, right? So you want to start those sales cycle with the demoable product right away, and then you're going to the customers are going to be recommending stuff, so you're going to be refining it later and later on. But to get that minimal demoable product, as you said, you need to still figure out what are the core features that it needs to do. And I say stick with like 3 to 4 max, usually 1 to 2, and that do the core painkiller, as I said, problem that your customers have. What is the thing that's like making them rip their hair out? Solve just that in a way where you can demo it in a really slick way that makes your like delight, that makes them go like, wow, that's really cool. I love hearing those words. Wow, that's really cool. Love it. It's my favorite thing to hear. So yeah, like have a minimal demoable product, demo it, do sales, demo it, try to get some like commitments, and then work with those customers to build out that product to more match their specifications.
Speaking of customers pulling their hair out and trying to solve that problem, when it comes to customer discovery and product market fit, what's one mistake you see founders making early on?
Yeah, so this was my mistake that as I had with the free pilots, as I said, people a lot of times are just going to be nice. They're just going to tell you what you want to hear, and I have a lot of data like that tracks the usage of my app, and they'll tell me one thing and then their usage says something entirely different. So but if they're paying you, completely different story. Like they're not going to be nice to you if they're paying you, and that's really, you want to get to that yes or no as quickly as possible, and you want to kind of figure out how to avoid and get past the niceties right to the where the issue rises. So that's how you're going to have to figure that out. It's something that I'm still uh trying every single day. It's really really difficult, and anytime when you're dealing with human nature, I'm an engineer. I'm doing my best I can, but I don't know the source code to humanity. AI is figuring it out. That's what all AI is. It's just a compression algorithm for all human knowledge. But yeah, so it really comes down to, how do I get to that yes or no customer answer that's genuine as quickly as possible. And yeah, a lot of times that will be try to get a little bit of money, and then they'll tell you exactly what they think.
So, what advice would you give to entrepreneurs who say, "Yeah, everybody loves my idea," um, rather than "Well, that doesn't mean anything. That means nothing."
Yeah, first of all, who is everybody? Define love on a scale of 1 to 10. Like what? Yeah, so there's no app is loved by everybody. And if that's how you target it, like you're gonna have a really hard time marketing. So you want to be kind of specific with the problems that you solve for what industries that you solve. So you want to say like 90 out of 100 mortgage professionals said that my app decreased the amount of time that's spent reviewing mortgage applications by 80%. That is way better then everybody loves my app. Because who is everybody and what does love mean? So yeah, like the specifics of it, that somebody were to say that, it means that they don't know who their target market is, they haven't conducted customer research, and they don't know what the results of that research are. So yeah, that's definitely not the way to go.
Yeah, and it sounds like there's also a value proposition missing there because product market fit assumes that there's a value prop somewhere in the midst where someone will open up their wallet and pay for this.
Exactly.
So you've had successful partnerships early on. What's your approach to making B2B partnerships happen without a huge sales team? And what advice would you give startups trying to do the same thing?
Yeah, when you're first starting to create these partnerships, it's really important to not have really big asks right at the beginning. Try to provide value as much as you can, because right at the beginning, when you first start your company, like you're nobody, nobody knows you. Like unless like if you had like three exits and now you're starting your fourth company, it's gonna be a different story, right? The case by case basis. But if you're starting your first or one of your first startups, you don't have a huge network. You really need to put yourself out there. So you want to be providing value as much as possible to get these partnerships, and then they really have a snowball effect to them, where as many people see you out there, like doing podcasts or doing press releases or writing content like articles, doing videos. So all of this stuff helps put yourself and your brand out there and make it easier and easier in the future to get these opportunities.
So we've had a lot of talk about AI, and in fact, I just announced our first. I run a little side project called the Flowgrammer, and we have our first N8N meetup in Toronto on May 13th. I think
Cool.
going to go through some workflow and automations for no-code tools. But what's your take on the explosion of no-code tools for AI? Are they useful or are they just hype?
Okay, so it's a loaded question. So I'll do my best. So I call it AI assisted coding. That's the term I like to go with, and I use it every single day for every single line of code that I write. It is a force multiplier, but any number multiplied by zero is zero. So like I feel like with these AI systems, you need to understand a little bit about what's going on, and then it can multiply your capabilities. But if your capabilities in the thing are zero, then as I said, like 100 times 0 is zero. So that is something that is actually in many ways presents a huge opportunity in that there's so many no code coded companies out there that are going to require security. They're going to require maintenance as they scale, right? Like there's a lot of things where that right now they're like the ebbs and flows of software developers. Right now we're in a kind of a low, but with these no AI assisted coding companies exploding, like companies built using those tools exploding, there's going to be in the next few years where there's going to be a lot of demand for senior engineers. So I feel like with AI, a lot of junior positions are definitely in jeopardy, and that's something where we have to figure out as society how we're gonna figure that out, because you need to have a junior in order to have a senior. So like, how does that pathway, how is that transition going to work in the future? That I'm not too sure about. I think there's going to definitely have to be societal re-education like there was with the Industrial Revolution. But it's definitely not hype, but it's definitely not the end of developers. So it's that's the way I think about it. It is a forced multiplier. If you're a 10x developer, you're going to become a 1000x developer. Um, but if you've never ever ever coded in your life ever before, and then you use like an AI assisted coding tool like Lovable or whatever, and you can absolutely create a platform, and you can create a product and a website, and it will be okay. But some point in the future, you will hit a bug, you will hit an error, you will have a crash where the AI won't fully be able to solve it, and then that is the end of your company. Like I don't know how else to say it. If you can't like figure out how to go into that code yourself, and if the AI struggles or something, figure it out. When that day comes, it will end your company. So that's the interesting thing with these, is that there is like a time bomb within all of these companies that one day will go off, and then developers are going to be in very high demand once again.
And I also find when using some of these so-called low code, no code solutions, that there actually is a significant amount of code in them. And I like to actually use code or function nodes as much as possible because they're quick, they're fast, they're efficient in a flow versus calling an AI module or doing something else, which is slow, relatively speaking. So there's a lot of at least in my implementations, there is a lot of code, but if you're a programmer, you're going to have to learn to look at things differently rather than looking at an IDE interface, because the code is distributed over multiple JSON files and you're looking at this, or maybe you have
Oh,
to
I see.
now store them in an Airtable or whatever so you can look at the code separately because they're all. So I think, like what you said, everything's evolving because as we go into no code platforms, you're going to have code modules, but they're going to be separate. They're going to be not necessarily together. They're not going to be you're not looking at one program. And so that things and tools and all those things will change as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And yeah, so so I made a little misunderstanding on my part. The discretion between a no code platform and an AI development platform, those are slightly different. Like
Well, agreed. Yeah.
yeah, my website, for example, is built on Webflow, which is like a no code website builder. And yeah, I'm super happy with that. I love Webflow. It's just an easier way to manage a website. And because like a website doesn't do super crazy fancy like code logic, that it makes a lot of sense. But my application is definitely like coded using because there's just too much custom requirement and iterations. So yeah, if you're using code blocks or something to no code build applications, I think those are great. But yeah, and then there's like this new thing with like fully AI assisted no code, which is, as I said, I think it's great too. But yeah, it presents scalability issues later on, that definitely both of those are going to target.
Yeah, and you just jumped farther ahead rather than the no code, low code tools like Make or N8N and that kind of stuff, which is available potential for the average user could jump into right away and start playing around with. To the average user can jump into Bolt or Lovable or whatever and start getting it to code. But yes, when you do run into that roadblock where it can't solve the problem, then you are messed up, for lack of
Yeah.
a better.
Yeah, but we're like Discrepancy AI. Our implementation that I built is no code as well. But it's no code in the way that we prepare the code for you, and then you just copy and paste it. Like every single no code editor is code behind the scenes. Uh, so we've done the same with our no code, where we prepare this code for you, and we have something called auto generated docs. So we don't like have docs. We have our fully composed functions where you just copy and paste them, and it has everything built in. So that just makes things easier for either if you're a developer looking like you can it's like our low code solution. And then if you're like a product person, we have a full no code solution that allows to just copy and paste these like AI workflows anywhere in your website.
What daily or weekly habits keep you effective as a founder?
Yes, I honestly like work really, really hard. I think everyone says that, but like you're going to be sending out hundreds of emails, doing like dozens of customer calls, pushing code, um, having like meetings every single day. So every single day I have to like do all of those tasks, wear all of those hats. Um, Try to go to the gym at least 2 to 3 times a week, do some sort of like get like 10,000 steps, make sure I'm happy. I still try to keep like family time with my wife and my two dogs. So try to keep myself motivated like that. You want to keep in perspective why you're doing it all. So yeah, just keep happy, healthy, and make sure that you're motivated and passionate about what you're working on, so it doesn't like drain you. So just, yeah, that's the hardest, like not the hardest, so that's the most important thing, where every day I try to like figure out why, like why am I passionate about AI, like. And luckily it's kind of like AI is kind of easy because it's it's like the future of everything, like it's going to eat the whole world. So, but like, yeah, like try to, you have to figure out how you're going to stay passionate about what you're doing. And then once you have that passion and that drive, working really hard on it is really easy, and you don't feel burnout as much or anything because you want to do this. You're not like forcing yourself to do it.
Yeah, you definitely want to avoid burnout, but is there any other advice too about staying it's staying focused rather than saying you want to do all these things, having a laser focus on what it is you're trying to do?
Yeah, so the laser focus really stems from the passion, really, that you have. Uh, your time is limited, and you want to tell yourself, okay, I have only have so much time. Where, how is my time most valuable? And if what you're working on, you're super passionate about it, you're gonna see that as the most valuable way you could spend your time. So yeah, it's just honestly, think of it as like self hypnosis. How can I convince myself every single day that what I'm working on is the most important thing in the world, that I could be possibly be doing. And once you have that really drilled into your head, um, kind of staying focused, and it's just easy, because you don't, every time you're working at someone else on something else, I feel guilty. So that's every time I'm doing something else, I feel guilty. Like I was working on my side project in the weekend, even though I was super important to me, because like, I want to see where Canadian spending is going. I still felt guilty working on it. I felt like I could have been doing some customer work doing it, even though it was on the weekend. So yeah, it's just, that's just it. You want to make it so you like what you're working on, you feel guilty if you're working on any other stuff that's not that. And you do that by really focusing on why you're passionate about what you're working on.
As a founder, we constantly take risks. Can you tell me about a time you took a big bet that didn't pay off and what you learned from it?
Yeah, so I talked a little bit about it. When I first started Discrepancy AI, the big bet was to go after legal, and to be a legal tech company. And I went really, really hard in that industry. I spoke with maybe 1,000 lawyers and legal ops, legal professionals, and not until like I had this really deep conversation with like a family friend did I find out that no, like actually, like a lot, your platform is pretty much perfectly designed to decrease their billable hours. So there was a lot of and nobody would say that, of course. So that was the toughest thing, where I was just like getting in all these meetings and then not getting anywhere, and super long sales cycles, like longer than it should be, and but never getting a no, but never getting a yes. And it was the reason for that was because they don't really want to admit that, because it's not just about it's like email. If you think about it, um, they can't not use email now that it's proliferated throughout the industry. So there's an expectation from their customers that email exists. So they can't say, I took 4 hours to mail out your court documents, right? They have to now use email because it's an expectation. So it's the same thing that's happening with AI. If you send your contract to a lawyer to be reviewed and the lawyer says it's going to take me a week, he's like, well, wait a second, like with ChatGPT you can do this in like a few minutes. Why is it taking so long? Why is this 20 billable hours? So there's that customer expectations, and that's the big fear with legal and AI, is that the expectation for how long legal work will take is going to go down throughout the industry. So yeah, that's why we made that pivot towards like financial documents, and that has been so much greater, because your incentives need to line up with that of your customers, and that was an interesting thing to learn for sure.
What's something you believe about building startups that goes against the popular grain?
Oh, okay. I don't know. Okay, one thing is, okay, so it's like everyone's right now is on this thing that you got to build super customer specific niches. So like, but I that's something that I'm kind of against. Every single AI startup now is like, we're an AI startup for this specific niche industry that only does this one thing, and I kind of don't think that works. I feel like you have to figure out the underlying problem that all of those customers try to solve, try need and try to solve it. So we're trying to be a little more industry agnostic, and that's something that I've got a lot of pushback on from being an early startup, saying that like, oh, like you only should focus like say like mortgage brokers, for example, only mortgage brokers. But I'm like, but we have customers coming in from car auto loans. We have insurance companies want something, and so like to me, that's like dealing every day with customers and figuring out how like to adapt our product to them. You definitely don't want feature creep. You don't want to have 100 different features because all of these customers want different features. But what you want to figure out is how to have one product that services them all. And that's really how you build like $1 billion business. And right now, everyone's saying that like, oh, like do like that one thing. But I say no. Figure out how to do one thing that's applicable to many industries. So that's really like my contrarian belief. And yeah, so like that's I've gotten a lot of pushback on this one. So yeah.
I would agree with you. For example, build an AI voice agent that takes reservations for anybody, not just for restaurants,
Exactly.
because dentists, lawyers, all sorts of professionals take appointments too, and the flow is the same. And then maybe you want to call them,
Exactly.
remind them, and like so now you've got this voice reservation tool that could apply to everybody. And how you market it, maybe have a restaurant sales tool and a this tool and that, whatever. That's a different ball game. But now you've got the world's your oyster. Everybody wants appointments, and now you've got a tool for them, as an example.
Exactly. It's a perfect example. It's exactly, yeah, exactly my point.
All right. So if you only give one piece of advice to a founder launching a startup in 2025, what would it be?
In 2025. Okay, so yeah, in 2025, don't focus too much on technical capabilities because AI makes it so anyone can build those capabilities. Focus on distribution. Find the customer, build a relationship with them, figuring out what they need, and build something for them. Now, make sure it's in a big enough industry. Build something that solves one customer's problem, and then once like do sales and distribution first, solve their problem, and build something for them. And then once you have that thing that you know at least solves that person's problem, then you can go find competitors for that person and try to sell them as well. So build directly with a customer, find out what they need and build it for them. That first customer is the only one where the free pilot goes out the window. You got to do a free pilot. You got to prove to them that, hey, I'm going to build exactly what you need for you. um, and then once you know that, hey, like this customer is solving their problem, they're using it, build the metrics to track everything. Once you know that, hey, it's being used by customer A, then do some research, find competitors to those companies, and sell to them as well, because you know exactly how it's being used, what the benefits are, because you already built it for someone in that industry. So yeah, my advice to someone building in 2025 is start with distribution. Start with distribution. That's it's 2025 is a completely different industry. It's completely different than any other time to start building a startup where you got to go heads down and build a product first. I don't think that's the case anymore. You can build a MVP or minimal demoable product in a couple of days with AI. So distribution is the most important thing. Find the customer, find out what they need, and build it for them.
Where do people go to find out more about you and Discrepancy AI?
Well, you can Google Lisen Kaci. I'm the only one. So yeah, search me on LinkedIn as well, LisenKaci, or you can go to discrepancyai.com.
I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to talk to us and our audience today. Thanks for being a part of Startup Talk.
Thank you so much. I had a great time. Appreciate it.